They are in a total mess, and they're pushing themselves into a deeper mess each and year after year. Why do we face these problems? That's because we find only short-term solutions to all the issues that crop up with no proper long-term planning. Mangalore city in its recent history has grown organically. By organic, I mean with no planning, things have developed as and when problems crop up. Buildings come when there's a requirement. Roads come when there's a requirement. Bus stops come when there's a sudden requirement. These things are not thought of in a long-term sense, but just stopgap arrangements to satisfy the needs, immediate requirements of the people of the city. For such a city as beautiful as Mangalore, what we require to make it into a full-blown mega city for the future is a master plan developed by trained professionals, trained architects with experience of building cities. And one more thing about a master plan, the most important thing is the master plan has to be local. It has to be adapted to the local situations. So the local people should be involved in its planning. The community has to be involved in the planning. Currently, another way of saying it would be, we cannot have bureaucrats sitting in Bangalore planning for us. We cannot have somebody sitting in New Delhi planning for us. Someone who's not able to assess the cultural situation of the place, the topography of the place, the demographics of the place. These are all the things that need to be studied in detail. Yes, it is possible to get an external architect who's trained, or probably on international scales. They are able to come here and pass on the expertise to other members of these planning bodies, collect all this data, assess them, analyze them in depth, come up with future projections, not just for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, let's say 20 years down the line. First of all, I can make a suggestion. Mangalore needs to invest in an independent planning office, which can be a semi-government body with well-qualified professional town planners and engineers heading it. The planning body should also have representation from different social groups of the local community. The present setup in Mangalore, having different government departments handling the planning and implementation, is not working because of the lack of coordination between the different departments. Moreover, these departments are too deep-rooted in corruption, and we can't change their ways of functioning. If you want to change something, you must discuss with the population of the city. You must take their opinions. This is very, very important. It's very important to set up conditions for the people to participate in the planning process. People do actually give very good suggestions. Now, let's take, for example, the much talked about controversial debate going on in the city about high-rise constructions versus low-rise constructions. Now, there are 3 sides to this story. One from the builder's point of view, one from the citizens of Mangalore's point of view, and finally from the sanctioning and controlling authorities' point of view. I don't think I'm in a position to objectively evaluate what is right, what is wrong, or who is right, who is wrong. All I can put forward is a few facts. A year and a half earlier, when there were so many high-rise buildings coming up, Mangalore city had abundant supply of housing coming into the market, and prices of homes were very affordable. But maybe at the cost of densely populating the central areas and possibly causing a future failure of infrastructure. Presently, the supply of housing in the market has come down. Prices have gone up. It is no more affordable for an average Mangalorean to buy a home. But the plus side is development is spilling over to the outskirts of the city. Now, while all these changes were happening, in the past scenario as well as the present scenario, the sanctioning authorities, they were privately benefiting in the earlier scenario, they're privately benefiting in the present scenario. Nothing has changed on that front. In such a situation, I can only suggest that let there be no status quo. Growth comes to a standstill in a status quo. May the 3 different groups join together for a discussion, strike a balance between their contrasting opinions, and work out a long-term growth plan for this beautiful city of ours. Now, see, similar such discussions are very healthy involve the community, have such discussions, and arrive at a master plan for the future of the city. Now, let me quickly get down to a few target areas in Mangalore that need to be considered while designing the master plan for the future. First of all, the city center is getting too congested. We need to limit the growth of these areas by pushing newer developments to the outskirts of the city. We have to build newer housing communities in the suburbs. It's easy to say to build new neighborhoods on the outside, but will people move there? No. People always want to live in the center for various reasons. They might want to have their schools close by, entertainment centers, shopping, hospitals, markets, etc. So if you want to ask people to move outside to these newer developing communities, we have to make them into integrated communities. We have to provide all these facilities for them along with the housing. This could be not just one unit here, it could spread all around in different zones outside the city. One key factor that will decide the success of integrated communities outside will be transportation. Mangalore's vehicular traffic has grown tenfold in the last decade. It has the highest density of cars in the country today. If this kind of growth continues and the existing width of Mangalore's roads continue, we will soon have one big rush hour all day where everything will come to a standstill. The only solution to this is to focus on an efficient public transport system. When I mention efficient public transport system, a lot of ideas come up. Of course, Canada Chamber of Commerce is suggesting a skybus. It could be a viable option. My personal opinion, I thought, why not develop on the existing bus transport system? We could take as a model of a city in Brazil called Curitiba. It's on the southern end of Brazil. It's a very small city. What they did was they developed the existing bus system. Just like us, they also had a private bus system. Now, what they did was they decided that transport is the key to decongestion of the central areas. So they decided to have a north-south corridor. It's a road, basically, with central lanes dedicated only to buses. On either side of two bus lanes were two other lanes for cars only. And on the extreme end was a mix. There were heavy traffic, there was cars. They started this model in 1965, and it's one of the biggest success stories in the world today. We could probably emulate their model, study what they did, and try it out here. Currently, even today, the bus transport system over there is privately held, and it is flourishing very, very well. Now, when they developed this north-south corridors, how did they decongest the central areas? All the development or the newer development that came up was all along this north-south corridors on either side of these roads. Similarly, probably in Mangalore, what we could do is we could have a corridor like this from Mudipu, from one of the SEZs, to the other end, maybe even up to Mulki, and if the requirement comes, all the way up to Udupi, or probably even from Mangalore to Mudubedri, another east-west corridor. This will be a central high-speed lane with dedicated bus lanes in the center, cars on the two sides, and the extreme side, a mix of both. Now, by dedicating bus lanes only for buses, we can speed up the buses, unlike the delays that happen currently in the highways in Mangalore, and plus, there will be no more accidents. It'll reduce the accidents. By mixing traffic, you naturally have accidents happening. Now, just as in Curitiba, in Mangalore too, we can create integrated residential zones, industrial zones, or service sector zones on either side of these transport corridors. People can quickly and easily move between their workplaces and homes using these high-speed transport corridors. Another important element for a city are parks and open spaces. Parks and open spaces are the lungs of a city. Mangalore too needs these breathing spaces. The CRZ law does not allow for any construction along river banks or beach fronts. So why not build lengthy parks, gardens, squares along the banks of the two rivers that we have, or maybe even on the seafront? These parks will work as a multi-purpose. Besides being recreational spaces, they can be designed to work as barriers against flooding. They could also work as control points for during the monsoons to regulate the rainwater flow outside. One more thing would be these parks will prevent illegal encroachment and also encourage tourism. Okay, let's fast forward 20 years from today. Let's assume we have developed an intelligent master plan. And let's say we have successfully implemented this plan. Definitely, the quality of life will have been raised from where we are today to a much higher level. And let's say Mangalore has already become a flourishing metropolis. What happens then? We will run short of resources to sustain that standard of living beyond that. The City of London had to stretch its hands all around the world and steal from everywhere to sustain the lifestyle of their people. Now, let's say 20 years down the line, we are a rich city. We will tend to behave the same way. So why not start now and make a move towards sustainable development? Now, sustainable development, let me define it in someone else's words. Development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In other words, sustainable development is nothing but being able to reuse the limited resources that we have again and again. Due to the limited time, I will not go in depth because this is a totally different field on its own, sustainable development. But let me suggest a few of the possibilities. 1, rainwater harvesting. 2, recycling of wastewater, recycling of garbage, alternate sources of power such as solar and wind energy, energy efficient buildings. These are some of the possibilities that could be incorporated starting today. Success cannot be achieved overnight. Most cities in the world achieved it over a generation through experimentation. I strongly believe Mangalore first has to start with an independent planning and implementing body, headed by professionals with strong leadership skills, and move from there. Remember, Mangalore is still very young. Let us start right now, nurture its growth, and let us help it grow into a mega, vibrant, mature city, which will set an example not only in the rest of India, but in the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
As Mr. Sanjith Naik has very rightly pointed out, the quality environment for humans to live in, that is what urban development is all about. He has done a very critical analysis of the mess Mangalore is in today. And he has not only pointed out the mess, but he has also told us the solutions for it through a master plan manned by professionals. I request Ms. Jayashree to felicitate him with a bouquet of flowers. Development. Healthcare is an indicator of the Human Development Index. And just to get things in perspective, health expenditure as a percentage of the GDP stood at